Good to see you again, Space Cowboy. Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy, and I am finally here with my long-awaited and much-anticipated review of the anime classic Cowboy Bebop. So Cowboy Bebop in a nutshell follows the crew of the spaceship Bebop, the badass renegade Spike Spiegel, the former cop turned bounty hunter Jet Black, the gambling addicted con artist Faye Valentine, and the extremely eccentric hacker Edward. Yes, I didn't forget to mention you, as well as their space dog Hein as they traverse the galaxy looking for bounties, fighting off enemies, and dealing with and coping with their past lives. Now, if you are an anime fan to any degree, you have either heard of, seen, or are in love with Cowboy Bebop. It's inevitable. I mean, it is a hallmark of anime history, up there with Neon Genesis Evangelion, Dragon Ball Z, and the instant classic, Green. I'm just joking about that last one. The only classic that thing will ever be is a classic piece of shit. And for many years, I fell under the first category. I heard about Cowboy Bebop and how incredible it is and how it's widely regarded as one of the greatest animes ever created. But I never fully watched the series for myself. And I had no real reason as to why. It's not because I hated the series, or I hated the hype and fan base behind it, or because I wanted to be that one guy that would go into an anime club and be like, I've never seen Cowboy Bebop, #rebel, that makes me cooler than any of you guys. None of those reasons. It's because I never really had much of a drive or interest to watch the series for myself. That is until I started Classic Month and chose Cowboy Bebop to be the anime to kickstart the month off. Even though I'm reviewing the anime in the last week of Classic Month. I'm so sorry. And now I have finally seen Cowboy Bebop in its entirety, and what are my thoughts on it? Let's find out. First praise I'll give Cowboy Bebop that I wholeheartedly agree with everyone is that the series does have amazing art and animation that still holds up even today. I was astounded at how great and detailed the artwork and animation was. From the character designs to the various backgrounds to the designs of the ships to even the action sequences, they were all masterfully done and well directed. And speaking of the action sequences, most of them, from the space battles to the gunfights to the hand-to-hand combat, were exhilarating and gripping. I mean, I could not take my eyes away from the awesome action that was unfolding right in front of me. It was really good. I, for one, enjoyed all the hand-to-hand combat scenes. They were fluid and fantastic. Next praise for the series that I agree with is the iconic music done by the legendary Yoko Kanno. It is as excellent and well done as everyone said it was, and she knocks it out of the park, delivering one of the greatest anime scores I have ever heard. And what made it so fantastic wasn't just by how memorable and catchy they were, but also how varied it was in its genre, mixing jazz, funk, blues, bluegrass, hip-hop, and even heavy metal in its soundtrack. And come on, who doesn't love the opening theme to Cowboy Bebop? It is one of the jazziest tunes in anime, and it's so infectious that you can't help but hum along with it once it starts playing. You're just like, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. I mean, it just gets you so jacked up and excited to see the series. And if a song could do that, you know that that song is something special. Another common praise given to this anime deals with its voice acting, most specifically the English voice acting, as many consider Cowboy Bebop to have the first truly great English dub done for an anime that's either at the same level or even surpasses the original Japanese cast. And I won't deny, English dubs back then were god-awful. Terrible lip syncing, mediocre voice work, terrible ADR work. I mean, it was just complete tripe. And then out came Cowboy Bebop saying, hey, this is how you do voice acting. This is how you sync the voices with the lip movements. This is how you do real ADR work. And I mean, they just kicked everyone's ass, and they proved to us that you can actually deliver some solid English dubs for anime. And every one of the voice actors and actresses did a stellar job at bringing their characters to life. Like, I can't even picture anyone else voicing these characters besides the people who voice them now. Next, let's talk about the story, or should I say stories, as the series is very episodic. Yeah, sure, you'll have a couple episodes that do tie into each other, but for the most part, each episode has its own standalone stories. And for the most part, I enjoyed most of the stories. I found them engaging, I found them thrilling, I found them exciting, I found them scary, I found them really entertaining and hilarious. And I do like some of the deeper stories that are in the show. Whenever they delve into the characters' past, those were my favorite episodes. When we learn about Jet's past, we learn about Spike's past, we learn about Faye's past, we kind of learn about Edward's past. Those were my favorite episodes because there's just so much deep storytelling in there. My two personal favorite overarching stories deal with Spike's past and Faye's past, as it was just so fascinating to learn more about these characters' lives before they joined Bebop. The turmoil, the dilemmas, the conflicts they face, and how they're coping with it now. It just gives us a lot of insight into these characters who start off as these really cool, suave, badass-like characters, but then they get a lot of development in these episodes and you learn more about them. And in turn, you become more invested in these characters and their journey. And though many of the stories are superfluous, isolated incidences, they do add to the whole journey aspect of the anime and make for some really riveting, exciting, and entertaining moments. And they also help to form the bond and connection between the members of Bebop. And real quick, since I am still talking about the story, as I was watching Cowboy Bebop, I couldn't escape this strange feeling in the back of my mind that I've seen this show before, as its plot and premise seemed oddly familiar to me. And after seeing 4 episodes, it finally dawned on me. I was like, holy shit. This is the anime version of Firefly. And I know what a lot of you are typing in the comments, oh, actually, Firefly came after Cowboy Bebop, so wouldn't it be the live-action version of Cowboy Bebop? Okay, semantics, it's all the same thing. I just found it weird at how similar these two were. I mean, it's about a ragtag team of bounty hunters that are traversing the galaxy in their piece-of-shit spaceship. They have that eccentric engineer and the one renegade badass with the troubled past. In fact, all the characters in both Cowboy Bebop and Firefly have troubled past. I mean, they were just so similar that I couldn't help but feel like Joss Whedon might have gotten some inspiration for Firefly from watching Cowboy Bebop. And I tried looking all across the internet, finding an article that can prove it, but nothing has ever popped up saying that he was inspired by Cowboy Bebop. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I did find that kind of interesting though. And speaking of the Bebop crew, love each and every one of them. They're such fascinating and complex characters, each with their own rich backstory, great development, exciting personalities, and great banter and chemistry among themselves. And each one adds something new to the team. They bring something to the table. Hell, even I'm the Dog helps out in a couple episodes now and again, showing his worth. They're great as individuals, but they are far more exciting as a team. Just seeing the personalities clash now and again, it was always a thrill to watch. And though I love each and every one of them, the one character that I always look forward to seeing was Edward, as she just brought so much life to this anime with her cheerful disposition, her zany attitude. I mean, she was just so lively and energetic, and she reminded me so much of one of my favorite anime girl characters of all time, Mako from Kill la Kill. In fact, I would not be surprised if those two became like the best of friends, as they just share so much in common. As for the side characters that would pop up in each episode, they served their purpose well. Some were really great and memorable, others were just really dull and forgettable, and others were kind of like in the middle for me. They just weren't that good and they weren't that bad. Now, I have sung its praises, but now I must point out its flaws. One of Cowboy Bebop's most noticeable flaws is that because it's an episodic series, there are some episodes that come off as completely ineffectual and pointless, just huge time wasters, as it doesn't add much to our established characters, the story it's telling isn't all that engaging, and the side characters introduced in the story are not that interesting or at the least bit entertaining. Like, there's this one episode called Cowboy Funk, where it introduces this cowboy bounty hunter that chases down this bomb maker, and at first it was kind of funny to see how ridiculous this guy can be, but after a while it just got a bit repetitive and it was just beating a dead horse Literally. There's also another episode dealing with Jet meeting an old acquaintance's daughter and helping her find her lost father, and it just felt like that story went absolutely nowhere and doesn't add much to Jet's character. And the character, once again introduced in the episode, wasn't all that interesting. I mean, she was cool to a certain degree, but honestly, didn't really need her, and that story didn't really need to happen. But Tony, that adds to the whole journey aspect to the anime, like you said earlier. That is true, but just because it adds to the whole journey aspect of the anime does not excuse it for being weak and uninteresting. Another major issue I found with the series was a lack of Edward-centric episodes and development. Throughout the entire series, I counted about maybe 2.5 episodes that were actually dedicated to Edward's character. And even in the last one, they didn't give her that much development. In fact, her development was shoddily handled. It was pretty weak. I mean, they kind of sum up her story pretty rapidly and pretty sloppily, and I was kind of upset about that because Edward is a great character, and if we could give Faye and Spike and Jet multiple episodes developing their characters and exploring their backstory, how come we couldn't give that to Edward? I mean, I'm sure Edward doesn't have that tragic of a past, but we would never know that if we never explore the character. And even if it wasn't tragic, it still could be really fun to see. I mean, you learn more about Edward. That's never a bad thing. And I, for one, did not like how they wrapped up her story. Again, it just felt very sloppy and poorly executed and incredibly rushed. Like, here, this is the character's conclusion and that's all you're gonna get. And I'm like, no, I think Edward deserved more than that. And the last issue that I found with the series is actually quite similar to my previous issue, in the fact that the last 2 episodes of Cowboy Bebop I felt like were handled pretty hastily. I felt like it shouldn't have been a 2-parter, it should have been a 3-parter, as they should have explored more of the elements presented in these final 2 episodes. I mean, there are some things I wish they could have explored more or showed a bit more so that I could feel a much more deeper connection to the story that's happening. I'm not saying that the final 2 episodes story isn't that interesting or is not handled well and the conclusion to the series isn't great. It actually is really solid, and I thought it's a perfect way to end the series. But again, there are elements that I just didn't care much for because they just didn't focus on it as much as I think they should have or they could have. But overall, Space Cowboys, despite its few flaws, Cowboy Bebop is still a very well executed, extremely entertaining, and memorable anime with characters that you will fall in love with immediately. And though I don't find it to be the greatest anime of all time, I will say that it is a 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely an anime that is worth watching, and if you're a fan of anime, I definitely recommend that you give Cowboy Bebop a watch. But anyway, what did you guys think of this anime? Did you absolutely adore it and find it to be the greatest anime ever created? Or did you find it really boring, dull, and you couldn't get into it because of its episodic nature? And let me know, what is your favorite space adventure anime? Comment below and let me know. And with that done, I can move on to all the other animes I need to review and catch up on. I got a couple revisit month animes I still need to watch and review, classic month animes I need to watch and review, and most importantly, the Patreon animes that I need to watch and review. So I have to get started on all of those. Hopefully I can get them done before the end of May. I got so many animes I need to watch. So pray for me. Hopefully I can catch up and get back on my schedule. But until then, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel and be a part of the Black Critic crew, please hit that subscribe button below. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. And I'm Tony Watt II, the Space Cowboy known as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube. Bang.